All right, so I wanted to talk about this really quickly because I know we are busy on Friday nights, right? But I want to talk about some stuff because a lot of times I worry that many of us as Black women don't deal in reality, okay? And the truth of the matter is that so often we're in situations where we are victimized, right? But by the time we get upset about it, it's too late for a real investigation. So I want us to really think about the ways that we can make sure that we encourage Black women who are actually victims of violence to feel comfortable with law enforcement. And I know that there are genuine situations where Black women have not been protected, where Black women have actually gone to law enforcement and have not received the support that they needed. I'm just saying that it's important that we don't say that every situation where a Black woman has not received justice falls under that umbrella. And a lot of people like Meg the Stallion. But the truth is, her situation is one where she has a lot of visibility. She had the opportunity to receive a lot of support, and she could have gone to law enforcement, whether it was on the scene or whether it was at the time that she was in the hospital. Meg the Stallion is not the working class Black woman who has no resources. She's not the victim of violence who has no resources. Everyone in the world was ready to rally behind her as she was saying she wasn't shy. She stepped on glass. And then when she had the opportunity to receive justice, she fumbled the bag. She turned on the one person who was a key witness in her case. I've spent several years telling you all that one-sided sisterhood does not work. One-sided girl codes do not work. You cannot use your platform to damage a Black woman's reputation and then expect that Black woman to be on your side. That's not realistic. Other groups of women don't operate like that. You all have to stop thinking that another Black woman owes you something when you are literally throwing her name in the mud, when you are using the weight of your platform to disparage her. And the other thing that we have to understand is that if someone violates you in a way that is criminal, law enforcement cannot support you if you do not cooperate. Now, I understand that we exist in a world where there are certain historical reasons that Black women feel uncomfortable with complying and cooperating with law enforcement. But at the same time, I need us to understand this is not the 1600s. This is not the 1700s. This is not the 1800s. And this is not the 1900s. We are about to walk into 2023. We live in a world that is very different from what our foremothers dealt with. They fought and they spoke up so that we could exist in a world where if we are threatened in any way, we have a system that will support us. But a lot of Black women are unwilling to use that system. We don't want to trust law enforcement. We don't want to talk to attorneys. Those Black women who have a certain amount of visibility don't want to talk to a publicist. You don't want to have an attorney on retainer. But then you think that something is going to swoop out of the sky and grant you justice when you didn't do anything to make sure that that would happen for you. And then you denigrate Black women in certain spaces where we tell you, hey, if anyone plays with you, if anyone threatens you, go to law enforcement, back the blue. And you call us self-hating for telling you that you need to support law enforcement. You call us self-hating for telling you that, hey, there are checks and balances in the legal system. So if law enforcement does something that is out of turn, there are ways to hold them accountable. When we tell you that, well, you know, it's like a 1 or 2% chance where you will be done dirty by law enforcement, but it's a damn near 95, 96, 97, 98% chance that the person who does you wrong will look very much like the Black men that you are caping for. But you allow that small percentage, that small, like that 1 or 2% chance causes you to completely disregard the very system that you are going to rely on when you're in a situation like Meg is in. I'm not saying that Kelsey was right to go back on her testimony, but I'm also not saying that it wasn't right for Meg to get into court on Monday and throw that girl under the bus. I'm not going to say that it's right for Meg to completely avoid cooperating with law enforcement. I'm not going to say that. And what I'm telling you, like I said on Twitter, is a lot of these Black women who have a lot of visibility do a lot of shit that throws the day-to-day Black woman under the bus. It would mean a lot if you had Black women with celebrity status saying, hey, if you're a victim of violence, report it immediately. Don't be afraid. Don't wait. Report it immediately and comply. See, y'all spent the whole summer of 2020 burning every major urban area around in this country. And what did it get you? You all supported shit that was not to your benefit, not understanding that there's already a bill that has been introduced to Congress about protecting Black women and girls. All you need to do is support that. All you need to do is learn how to contact your state and federal representatives and say, hey, I'm a Black woman. I've been a registered voter since such and such a date. And it means something to me if you choose to support this bill. And if you don't support this bill, I'm not going to vote for you. But we have to have this conversation about one-sided girl codes, sisterhoods, and sister codes. Everyone expected that girl to corroborate Meg's testimony, even though Meg completely threw that girl under the bus. When are we going to talk about the fact that at the end of the day, you don't need to rely on eyewitnesses when you comply with law enforcement? You can let law enforcement do their jobs so that if something happens to you, it's the police department and their investigators testifying on your behalf. But you're so connected to Black men that you don't want to get them in trouble, while at the same time, you expect other Black women that you're throwing under the bus to put their necks on the line for you. When are we going to have the discussion about the fact that Black women need to be willing to have conversations with law enforcement? If you don't feel comfortable complying with them, talk to them about it. Have the conversations. Do you understand that these Black men that y'all love so much are talking to law enforcement and they're trying to make these domestic incidents into situations that are not even viewed as violent crimes? So if you're a woman who is victimized, you might live in one of those cities where it's not even a police officer that's coming out to respond. It's a person who is there to de-escalate the situation, but the man who has victimized you is not actually going to spend any time in jail. Y'all do not want to discuss the fact that these bail reform agencies are paying bail for men who have been accused of damn near beating their wives and girlfriends to death. Y'all don't want to talk about that. But then when there is a woman with celebrity status who is victimized, all of a sudden you're like, well, where's the protection for Black women? And it's like, well, what protection are we supposed to have when you all are supporting a system that is stripping those protections away? When you all are encouraging Black women to not report the crimes that are happening to us? When you all are encouraging Black women to antagonize other Black women who are actually willing up to speak, like they're willing to speak on the behalf of victims? You all want a one-sided sisterhood. You all want to be able to say whatever you want to say about other Black women and do whatever you want to do to other Black women. But then you all want to be able to say, well, what about sisterhood? And what about girl codes when that bitch decides to respond to you? That's not how life works. You will not be able to pull that shit in other spaces of women. Which is why, again, if you are the victim of violence, you don't need to rely on eyewitness testimony. You need to cooperate with law enforcement and let the evidence speak for itself. Hey, TMKC. I'm not trying to have a discussion with mammies, but what I'm trying to do is to make sure that Black women overall understand the situation that we're in, because unfortunately, we're all lumped into the same group. We're all lumped into the same group. Exactly, sugar. She wanted to protect Tory. I think, honestly, I think that in terms of saying Meg was shot by Tory, I think Kelsey was telling the truth. But I think Meg lied about sleeping with Tory, which, listen, she didn't have to address that question. But her lying about it gave him room to say, well, the reason that we were arguing in the car is because I told Kelsey what was going on between me and Meg, and the two of them started fighting. And in the middle of the two of them fighting, that's how Meg got shot. If Meg had simply had her team tell everybody, don't ask me about that, or if Meg had simply refused to address that, it would have nipped that in the bud. But I think right now Kelsey is lying. But I think the night of the shooting and in September when she gave her testimony, I don't think she was lying. I don't think Meg is lying about Tory shooting her, but I do think she's lying about the nature of her relationship with Tory because of the image that she has. Okay? You know, she's supposedly supportive of women, but how are you supportive of women when, you know, this is what you've done to your best friend? But that whole situation of her sexual history would not have come up if she had not addressed the question of whether or not she slept with Tory. And of course Tory's lying. You know, if you're about to do a 20-year jail sentence or a prison sentence and you don't want to be supported, you're going to lie. So of course he's doing the typical thing that Black men do, and he's lying because there's nothing that 100% proves that he did it. Unfortunately, we are all lumped into a group, which is why for me it's very important for me to say, well, wait a minute, I don't agree with this, I don't agree with that. It's very important to me for the world to understand that Black women are not a monolith. We don't all think the same. I do think that Meg deserves justice. I'm just very pragmatic and I'm a realist. I don't think she's going to get it. And she's not going to get it. She's not going to get it because she didn't cooperate. And then she's not going to get it because of certain other things. You say Kelsey is a preference? If she's a preference, she looks like a very pretty brown-skinned girl. But whether or not Kelsey is a preference is like not a point to me, because for me it's like, okay, if Meg had cooperated with the investigation, she would not have even needed to rely on Kelsey's testimony. Because for me, if somebody shot me, I want the police to do their investigation, right? Because a lot of people think that Tory and Kelsey fought over the gun. So if the police had had the opportunity to test the gun for fingerprints and both of their fingerprints are on the gun, my thing is, motherfucker, charge both of them. Charge both of them. But she didn't cooperate at all. And I think that Black women are not thinking about the major consequences of this. You're saying her mom is Mexican and her dad is Black, and you think her pathology is like a Black man. Okay. But how does that explain the fact that she was willing to testify for Meg as recently as September? I'm just curious, like, how does that let me look that up. Kelsey Nicole ethnicity. And when you say Mexican, is her mom a white Mexican? Let me see. Okay, she's from Houston. Where did you get that from? I'm just curious because there are, Mexico is one of those countries where they don't. Mexico, up until very recently, did not acknowledge certain racial origins, but there are actually Black Mexicans. But let me see. It says mixed. Okay. She doesn't look like, I mean, of course, genetics are varied, but she doesn't look like a white Latina and a Black male. Mhm. Yeah, up until I think it was either 2010 or 2020, there was no designation on the Mexican census for people who are Black. So she might have a parent who is Mexican in nationality, but that says nothing about their ethnicity. So just like, for example, Jocelyn Hernandez and well, I mean, she's still Puerto Rico as part of the U.S., but she identifies as Puerto Rican, but that girl is Black. She's just an Afro Latina. Right, that's my thing. They both have gun residue on them, so charge them both. Charge them both. Charge them both. Say what you see, and then go from there. That's how I feel like the case should have been handled. But since they're not handling the case that way, and you have one person who's willing to testify on your behalf, go with that so you at least get a conviction. But if I'm the prosecutor, I'm saying you both have gun residue on you. I'm charging you both and let them flip on each other. I'm not understanding anything about this. I'm not understanding what's taking place here. But you do have the victim saying that she saw Tory with the gun. But then you have a police department who's saying, well, we didn't test the weapon for fingerprints. So my thing is, well, fuck it. Charge them both. Charge them both and let's see what happens from there. Okay. But yeah, Mexico is interesting when it comes to acknowledging ethnicity, because up until very recently, they didn't even, like I said, there was nothing even on their census where you could identify as a Black person. Even though when you look at certain parts of Mexico, like you can look at some of the women and you can very much tell that they're, I don't know, you can tell that they're Black. But yeah, I'm not, but see, that's my thing. if the prosecution says, okay, we think that Tory is the shooter, Kelsey's willing to testify, go with that and comply with that. Now, if you think the girl took money, wait until you get her testimony and you secure a conviction to go after her. But it's a lot of stuff about this case that's just not making sense to me. I don't understand. See, this is the thing that I don't understand about Black women who have access to wealth and access to, I don't know what you call it, where people have access to people who can help them, but I don't understand them operating with a broke bitch mentality. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not a Black woman who has no resources. You have access to every resource in the world. So why are you afraid of law enforcement? Why are you trying to protect this nigga that tried to shoot you? I don't get that. And then when you have the opportunity to testify, instead of directing your focus at the man who shot you, you're taking shots at the woman who is a key witness in your case. I don't get it. That's a possibility. One is a shooter and one is the accessory. And a lot of times in criminal cases, they'll charge anyone. See, I don't know how California works. Okay. I will grant you that. I'm a Southerner. But in the South, if you're an accessory, everybody gets charged with the same shit. If you are in the passenger of a car and your friend decides to rob a store and you don't inform law enforcement and they get caught and they determine that you were in the car too, you get charged just like you were the person who went into the store and committed the robbery. So I don't understand how things work and operate in other parts of the country. But for me, I'm like, okay, you have two people, both have gunpowder residue. Charge them both, because guess what's going to happen? One is going to flip on the other. But when you charge one and then you rely on the other one to be an eyewitness, the eyewitness and the victim are not cool anymore. Then the victim shows up in court and accuses the eyewitness of a crime that she can't prove, and the eyewitness gets immunity. And then she says, I don't remember anything. You no longer have a case. You no longer have a case. And it's unfortunate. You do not want you don't want a man walking around who has gotten away with shooting one woman, because guess what? The next bitch that he shoots may not survive. So you don't want that. But at the same time, we exist in a culture that demonizes Black women for reporting the crimes that we are faced with. Hold on one second. Right. I do feel like some stuff is being left out, because I'm like, I'm confused at this point. Because if somebody talks about shooting me, I'm going to the police. If somebody actually shoots at me, I'm going to the police, and I'm going to my rowdy ass family members who will light their shit up. So I don't understand somebody shooting at me and I'm afraid. It's like, nah, you tried to kill me. Like, your life is done. It's a lot of stuff I don't get here. Okay, Cali crime laws. Well, yes, she's screwed for justice, but a lot of that is because she didn't comply with law enforcement. Because it works the same way in the South. If you don't comply, and see, she's lucky she's not in the South. Because in this part of the country, if you don't comply and a prosecutor does not think they can win, you don't even get a trial. You don't get a trial. Right. I'm telling you, like, listen, you can be riding in the car with someone and they go into a convenience store and rob someone. They get in the car and they drive off. If you don't report it to the cops, you all get the same charge. Okay, so you say LA is like strict like New York and Nevada. Okay, see, I've heard conflicting reports about New York though. A lot of people in New York are actually leaving because they feel like the laws are too lenient. But yeah, Nevada and Texas don't play. But that's my question, because it's like, okay, it's four of us in the car, right? It's the driver, it's Meg, the victim, and then it's Kelsey and Nicole. I mean, Kelsey and what's that motherfucker's name? Tory. Kelsey and Tory have gunpowder residue on them. Meg has been shot. Why weren't they both charged? Until you can figure out what happened, especially when we get to the point where Kelsey is not a cooperative witness, because that's another question. Like, if you're the prosecutor, why are you granting this girl immunity and you don't know what the fuck she's going to get on that witness stand and say? This is why I say, you know what? If you're a victim of a crime and you comply with law enforcement, them people in law enforcement and those investigators, they are objective third parties. So they are simply going to give their testimony based on the evidence that they have researched and investigated. So you don't have to worry about someone that you used to be friends with getting mad about what you said in court and deciding not to testify on your behalf. You can rely on the investigators, and if they fuck up, there's a legal system that has checks and balances to get their asses too. That's very true. You charge anyone who can be a suspect, and the first one to talk gets a deal. Yep. An accessory after the fact. Yeah, you said the Rockefeller laws used to be strict. I'm just telling you, a lot of people who live in New York now are they're looking to leave because the laws have become too lenient. I'm the type of person that is like, okay, if you're remotely involved in a violent crime and you don't report it to the police, it's like, nah, you need to be charged just like the person who was involved. Because all of this police defunding and decriminalization is not beneficial, especially when we exist in a space where we are part of a group where we are the victims of violence more than any other group of women. And we, you know, at some point, somebody's going to have a conversation about why this girl is a millionaire and she felt like she needed to protect this nigga. Why are you protecting him when you had access to every resource in the world? But I still have that question, and I know it's uncomfortable for a lot of people, but my question is, why did you need to address the concept of Kelsey Nicole getting money? Tory Lanez is only worth $4 million, and I say only with an asterisk by it, right? Because I understand as an everyday ordinary person, I don't have a net worth of $4 million. But I'm saying Most people with a net worth of $4 million, that's their assets. That doesn't mean that they have $4 million in the bank that they can put their hands on. So everyone is saying that he offered Kelsey Nicole $1 million. That does not mean that he had $1 million to put his hands on. I don't think he offered that girl no money. I don't think he had the money to do it. I think you have two women who were friends. They got mad at each other. They didn't talk for a few years. And you had one who said, well, you know what? I'm going to tell the truth about what I saw. And then you had Meg who said, well, you know what? I think this girl took money, so I'm going to say it in court. And that other girl was like, well, you know what? Since you said that shit about me, I'm not going to testify on your behalf. Is it fucked up on both parts? Yes. But that's why I say if Meg had cooperated with law enforcement in the beginning, she would not have had to rely on eyewitness testimony. Her case would have been ironclad, and that nigga would be going to jail. Because the thing that we have to consider is that if this motherfucker gets away with shooting her, he's going to be a genuine menace to society. And the next woman he shoots at may not survive. That's true. I don't like this attorney that's with the prosecutor, because I'm like, why aren't you explaining how Kelsey had gun residue on her? Why aren't you drilling that down? Why aren't you explaining, like, it's certain shit that he's not explaining that's just not working for me. Okay, you think Kelsey could have been paid off? Okay, I respect that opinion. I don't agree with it. I do think that she's hurt, that she's no longer friends with Meg. And I think that she's hurt that even though she was willing to testify on Meg's behalf, Meg accused her of taking money. All I'm saying is that with a lot, like, so we saw this with Kanye, right? Everybody was saying he was worth over $1 billion. But when he lost his endorsements, his net worth tanked by at least 66 or 67%. So when they say that Tory Lanez is worth $4 million, they might be including the value of his catalog, the value of any houses or vehicles that he has. But if he had liquidated $1 million worth of his assets, that would have caught the eye of the IRS and any other institutions of that nature. I just don't think he would have had the money to pay her off. But what I do think is that girl got in her feelings after what Meg said about her in court. That doesn't make it right. Ideally, she would have done the right thing and stuck to her testimony. But at the same time, if Meg cannot prove that girl took money to lie on her, that doesn't make her right either. You're saying he offered Meg money and she turned it down. Is there proof of that though? Because that's what I'm saying. Like Meg is worth $8 or $9 million. Like her net worth is at least double his. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think he had the money to offer anyone. I don't think he had the money to offer or give anyone. I believe that he shot Meg. I believe that he threatened to shoot Kelsey. I believe, because there are some women that talk shit about their friends. So I believe that he said certain things in the vehicle that night to create division between the two of them. But I also am wondering, like, if all of that happened, it's like, okay, Meg, like this dude tried to shoot you. Why were you trying to protect him? and then you're trying to protect him, and your friend is willing to come in court and speak on your behalf, and you accuse her of taking money. Like, do you have proof that she took that money? Or is it just a situation where you have two friends that are mad at each other and hurt? So they're just slinging mud at each other. But at the end of the day, it's like, baby girl, this nigga shot you and threatened to shoot you. You said it would be witness tampering. Okay. I think so. I think so. I have learned not to question people's sexual behaviors because people are doing a lot of things that are strange to me. My personal opinion is that they shared men, and I would not be surprised if the two of them were also sleeping with each other. Okay. And you say intimidating a witness is a federal crime under the RICO Act. Okay. But my point with Meg is like, if you say stuff about people, you got to be able to prove it. If you can't prove it, you're setting yourself up to be sued for defamation. But yep, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think that's the whole issue here, because Meg and let me see something. What on earth? But yeah, Meg and Kelsey act like two lovers that are mad at each other. It's not my business, but I don't know. That's just my overall thought on it. I think they slept with each other. I think they slept with men that they both slept with. I think they participated in other things. And because my whole thing is like, okay, this man shot you. Like, why are you talking about this girl getting money? Yep, definitely Holly weird for a reason. Yeah, they worship Tory and black men in general, which is very odd to me, especially because, you know, Tory is not attractive to me. On the other hand, I think that Meg is very beautiful. I think that Kelsey is a beautiful woman. I think they both could have done better. Hell, if they wanted to ride off into the sunset with each other, that would have been better than dealing with Tory. But unfortunately, it's not the first time that a man has come between two women. That's true. That's true. Anyway, thank y'all for entertaining my random train of thought. I don't understand. It's a lot about this that I don't understand. And it's unfortunate because I do believe that Tory shot her. I absolutely believe that he shot her. And I believe that he needs to do prison time for that. I just don't think it's going to happen because it looks like they don't have any like scientific evidence to prove it. And there's something in my head that's trying to figure out like how Kelsey got gunshot residue on her. Is it because was she near Tory when he happened to shoot her? You know, her version of events in September was when he saw her shoot Megan, they got into an altercation. So maybe the gunpowder residue got on her that way. His attorneys are willing to go into court and suggest that she was the shooter. Like, I feel like the prosecution is not clearing that up. And I feel like the only way to be able to clear that up would have been if there had been a thorough police investigation, but I just know how these things work. If you're law enforcement and you have someone who you think is a victim, but they're not willing to cooperate, you're not going to waste your time investigating, you know? So it's just unfortunate all around. Anyway, I'm going to get off of here and finish the rest of my Friday. But I hope you all have a great weekend. I hope you're safe. I hope you're doing well. I hope you are preparing for the holiday season. I think Diwali is done, and I think Hanukkah is going to be done on like the 26th, and then we're going into Christmas and then the New Year. So whatever season you celebrate or don't celebrate, I hope you're well. I hope you're spending it with those you love the most, and we'll talk soon.